Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing the Hobbymate Hobby Q100. I've got the plug and play version with me right here. So let's see what you get. Here's the frame. I'll put it side by side with a QX90 style frame. You can see that it's a little longer and wider. And we might need a custom motor mix. We'll see how that works out. The frame has got a nice canopy right here, which you can put all your electronics underneath. You have some rubber bumpers here, so you're not going to mess up your motors when you land. The brains of the quadcopter. This is a micro brushed NACE 32 FC with some UARTs, which is nice. And it can support up to 6 motors. So we have cables and double-sided sticky tape too. Now we've got the camera. This is not your usual micro FPV camera layout. This is the Spectrum V1100 or something like that. Normally this is what you'll see on a micro FPV quadcopter where the VTX and camera are integrated, but on this one it's wired a little differently. Camera and then goes out to your little VTX module, and that has an antenna out. That will actually work out really nicely on this frame, as we can tuck all of that underneath this. Now, battery. So we've got a 1S 550 milliamp hour LiPo. Now we've got motors. So 4 motors total, 2 clockwise, 2 counterclockwise, 8.5 millimeter motors, just like the QX90. And we have 10 pairs of 65 millimeter red props. Awesome. So when you crash, you'll have plenty of spares. And here we go, micro battery lead and 2 rubber bands for mounting the battery. Now let's get into the build. First step, let's put this all away, is to get your soldering iron heated up. And you probably want a fine point on it, because we're going to be tinning the small pads on here. Zoom in there. Okay. So you can see that we have the voltage in right here. Your battery will plug in through there. We have motor 1, 2, 3, and 4. We won't be needing the middle ones. Let's just take a close look at this right here. So it can accept S-Bus and PPM, which is nice. Has a micro USB connector. And we've, DSM, awesome. And instead of boot pads, which you have to solder up every single time, you have a nice little button. So, soldering. I'll heat up my soldering iron and show you how this goes. Okay guys, so I've got the board right here. Soldering iron is heated up. Now let's tin these pads. now we've got the FPV camera, and we're going to wire that power right to the battery leads right here. So you can see the micro FR Sky receiver right here. So let's go over the parts. This is a little bind button. You've got dip switches to choose S-Bus or PPM. And if you want to choose S-Bus, the this dip switch right here, the one marked 1, has to be to the right, and 2 has to be to the left. At no point should both of them be to the right or to the left. So if you wanted to use PPM, then 1 would be to the left and 2 would be to the right in this orientation. Because I'm using S-Bus, I'm going to be soldering into the S column. So P is for PPM. And right here we've got the S-Bus signal, positive and negative. And I've soldered in my wires that way. Negative, positive, S-Bus signal. And that goes over to this little cable, which we can plug into the board. There's also one other cable right here. This would be if you were using PPM, and I'm not, but I want to leave that option open, so I've just cut it down to make sure that this doesn't interfere with anything. Now let's go over setting up the model on the Tyrannus, and then I'll show you how to bind this. Okay, so I've got my Tyrannus right here, and I'm going to create a new model. So let's click Menu, zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so click Menu, find an open spot, hold the Enter button, and click Create Model. And you can see that it has the channel right here, and it shows you what type of task it would do. And yeah, channel 1's good for throttle, so I'll click Page. That goes to channel 2, 3, and 4. So we can just leave all of those as default. And that's good. It shows you your channel mapping. Then enter along. Here we go. Now I'm going to click Page. That goes to the second page in my model. And right here I can set up its name. Okay, there we go. Now, if you click Exit, it'll get out of the model name menu. Now, we can scroll down, you can leave all of this as it is. What you want to get to is the mode and channel range and receiver number. This is where we're going to set up our receiver. So, your receiver number, it's going to automatically give you a random number based on how many other ones you have. And one thing you got to do is in mode, change it to D8. Then you can leave channel range alone. And now let's prep the receiver for binding. Okay, so we've got the receiver, and to bind it's going to need power. So let's just go ahead and plug it into the rest of our electronics, and this would go into this UART right here. There we go. And then take a LiPo and plug it in right here. This should provide power. You'll see the lights going on. There we go. FC's flashing. VTX. and you can see a solid green light on my receiver. That means it's bound. But when you get it, it's gonna be flashing green. So you would have to plug in the battery while holding down this little button. So you would basically just hold down this little bind button and plug this in at the same time. You should notice that your light flashing sequence is different. Mine is solid green because it's still bound down. Yours might be different, but don't worry. And then go ahead and take your transmitter and click the bind button. We'll start making some sounds, and pretty soon your receiver, it'll go blank, no light. That means it's bound. You can exit out of the bind option, power off, power back on, and solid green light means we've established a connection between the Tyrannus and the little receiver. Okay, now that I've got all the wiring done, I've just popped it into the frame. So first you want to pop your flight controller in. You can see that there's a little arrow, and that should be towards the front. And I have the FPV camera. It's hot glued into place right here. The 4 motors are just press fit into the little motor holders. You don't even need to glue them in or anything. And I've just twisted the wires while doing that to keep it a little more organized. And the receiver, it does not fit in the canopy while the video transmitter's in there. So all I've done is I've routed the cables to the bottom of it, and I'm just gonna secure it in place here. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's all done. I've got the VTX antenna poking out here, and the receiver antenna poking out here. And before you put on the props and start flying, you're gonna have to configure it in Cleanflight. So let me go over that now. Okay, so if you don't already have Cleanflight, go ahead and download that from the Chrome Web Store. Then we're gonna open that up. And when you plug in your micro, you'll see that a COM port is recognized. Then click connect, and here we go. So first, put your quad on a flat surface, and then click calibrate accelerometer. There we go. Then the ports, enable serial RX, and after that, save and reboot. Configuration. All I've done is set my minimum throttle to 1050, so that when I arm, the props are already spinning. Instead of doing this, you could enable air mode. Failsafe, I have failsafe stage 2 enabled, and drop, then you would save and reboot. I haven't done anything in PID tuning yet. And in receiver, I've got the channel map as throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. And down here, because I'm using S-Bus, I selected RX serial and S-Bus for my FreeSky. Then you would save. So let me show you what that looks like. You'll see that nothing's actually happening here right now, and that's because my transmitter's not turned on. So you'll see the moment I turn on my transmitter, everything starts to work, and you want to just use your trims to make sure that your roll, pitch, and yaw start around 1500 when you're not touching them. Here we go, and yep, and then I have an aux switch enabled. You can see right there. I'm using that for arming. So if you do, then you would go into arm and add range, and I've selected aux 1, and now you can see that when I flip the switch, the green thing goes up there. You would have to adjust this range to suit that. Then click save, and that's pretty much it. There's not much else for basic adjustments. We can come back and tune PIDs later. So let's see how it flies. So you can see that it's got okay punch, not too bad. And you can go pretty fast. And this is with no tuning, no PID tuning done. Just a little bit of expo. Okay guys, so final thoughts on the Hobbymate Q100. So basically, it is a beast. It's fast, it's pretty agile, you have good flight times, it's cheap, coming in at only 46 bucks, and its range is actually really good. I didn't have high expectations for this little camera and VTX combo, but it's exceeded all of them. It's definitely better than the Spectrum VA1100 in terms of video range. Camera quality, because this is a CMOS, it is a little lower. It's not too bad though. It's definitely flyable, but it takes a few seconds to adjust to different light ranges. But when I was flying outside, I was able to go all around my house, brick house, able to cut through all the metal and wood and brick obstacles easily. Additionally, range. I have the plug and play, so I can't attest to the other receivers that you'll get with it. But when I put on this micro FR Sky receiver, I could probably easily get 300 meters. I just kept going, did not stop. Flight times on the provided battery, I was able to get in a hover probably 5 minutes, maybe even more. I didn't really test it, but in regular flying, 2 to 3 minutes is probably accepted. Then again, I didn't normally use that LiPo. I tended to use one of my own, just a little smaller, little less capacity, but worked just as well. Also, durability. This is pretty durable. In all my crashes, I still haven't broke a prop. The most that's happened is my canopy's popped off, the FC's popped off, and I just stick that back in. Now, pricing. So I got this off of Amazon. So it's sold by Hobbymate, and it was, I think, $50, which is a really good price actually with everything that's included. Found the same thing on Banggood, except it costs like around $15 more, and you have to wait 7 to 20 days for shipping. So yeah, definitely just go with Amazon. Applications. I think it's a really good beginner drone because it'll take a crash. It's got good flight times, easy to put together, and it's also pretty agile and fast. So if you want to move on to races, you can do that. So if you have any questions, comment below. I'll try to answer them. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please like and share. Thanks. See you next time.